I have some cherry limeade. I have a lot of good energy. Let's get back into the swing of things here. So if everyone is ready, sit down and let's go into the cleric, and we'll see how far we get tonight. I think we have plenty to look through in this document, and then we can still compare it to what we're finding in the Wayfinder's guide if we need to. And this week, as we're going through things, if we have some time, then we can also review Dungeons and Doggies as a rules companion too. Oh, what kind of dice? Do you have a picture of them, Diadems? Something, or you want to describe them, if not a picture? Hey, 12 for 10, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hey, TJ, welcome. All right, so this is perhaps for later in the week. Let's get back to Eberron here. We're picking up with the cleric, and I love that this document is getting us to question what makes a class this class. Or just because a class says that it is this, doesn't mean it only has to be this. It could be something else. Cleric, faith and force. What does it take to found a temple? What leads a congregation to questioning its beliefs or purpose? The heroic acts of Tira Miran founded the modern Church of the Silver Flame, while the false keeper, Melis Miran, nearly destroyed it. As your vestments gather over the pew, join us for an enlightening discussion of religion in the Five Nations. Lady Dara Irael, Artium Magister of Religion. So now let's... remember, this is presented as if these are college courses. So let's take a look at Religion 1103. It's easy to think of a cleric as just another magic user, one with different knowledge and intent from that of a warlock or a wizard, one whose support is both consistent and focused. While a wizard's magic takes the form of a science, the mystical abilities of a cleric are a gift from a higher power, earned through faith and devotion to a cause. To call for this aid, a cleric's prayers to help the fallen need not follow the same repeatable pattern and pacing as those of the arcane arts dabbled in by artificers, or wizards. It's important to understand that in Eberron, not all priests can wield divine energies. A priest provides spiritual guidance to a community and congregation, and they don't need magic to do this. Those that can use magic are usually adepts with the ability to utilize one or more low-level spells like thaumaturgy or other ceremonial rituals used to perform everyday duties. A rare adept might be able to cast Speak with Dead or Lesser Restoration, but this is a great gift. Such a healer or medium is celebrated within the community and may be throughout the region. A cleric is a full-fledged divine champion, and someone who possesses such a powerful connection wouldn't waste that power on sermons and everyday services. People of faith assume that such power has a purpose. In playing a cleric, do you know your purpose? Gods don't walk the world in Eberron, nor do their avatars lounge in fortresses across the plains. People believe that they are guided by the divine forces, the voice of the Silver Flame, the intuitive guidance of the sovereigns, but don't expect these beings to physically manifest before them. If a thing can't be seen, is it real? Does the possibility exist that such a higher purpose might not? These types of questions can create room for doubt, and while there's no question clerics and adepts wield mystical power, in Eberron, it's possible to be an atheist. Clerics rarely feel the need to prove the truth of their beliefs. As a cleric, you know your faith resides in your heart, and that is all the proof you need. Work with your DM to uncover exactly why that is. What is it that's given you such an unshakable faith in a force you can't touch? Do you have a direct connection to the divine? Do you believe in the doctrines and traditions of the church, or is your faith entirely held within you personally? What was it the first time that a prayer was answered and divine magic was yours to wield? Did your transcendental moment come from a great need with great sacrifice? I love, love, love these prompt questions. These are not just for Eberron clerics. Ask yourself this if you're playing a cleric in Faerun, in Ravenloft, in Greyhawk, in whatever, in a homebrew campaign setting. These are things that I've explored in my personal campaign world. So let's, if we're going to randomly generate a character, we would include this transcendental moment. Let's roll a d6 and find out what a character like this might have, and think about it for a second. We rolled a 2. A burst of flame struck down a deadly foe. Ah. So, our transcendental moment was a manifestation where we cast Sacred Flame at someone who is chasing us, or someone who is stalking us, or not even personal. It could have been we were trying to, we were trying to save a woman from being robbed in an alleyway, and this is how our goodness, our belief in people, in wanting to help, manifested. Is that, when we shouted, "Hey, you, let go of our purse," or kind of, "Hey, you, get your damn hands off her," in that Biff Tannen moment there with Marty McFly's father. Only when you pointed a sacred flame, pew, and then you look at, and you wonder, what just happened? That's a deeply impactful moment when you realized you can manifest your directive at other people in various ways. Whether it's something like spare the dying or cure wounds, or in this case, we ended up hurting or maybe even killing someone with a sacred flame. TJ says, just got home from work, had a bad day with kids losing their minds now that assessment is over. Sitting and plan on lurking with my face size declare. Ooh, that sounds good. Well then, cheers to you, TJ. And, decompress and de-stress, and thank you for just coming and hanging out. I hope in our own unique way we can help you de-stress and help just, if you have a bunch of clutter in your mind, let's grow ideas out, and that'll take the clutter out with it. Welcome back, Joe. And Diadem's posted his new dice set on Discord if y'all want to take a look. Every cleric has the ability to cast spells and channel divinity, but this is where the similarity from one cleric to the other typically ends. To be a cleric, one doesn't necessarily need to be trained or an ordained priest. Or wait, hang on. To be a cleric, one doesn't necessarily need to be trained or ordained. That should probably say as a priest right here. A cleric could have familiarity with the testaments of one or more religions, but it is far from a required skill. When creating a character in Eberron, spend some time to focus on how your background fleshes out the differences that help your character break the ritual tropes and separate it from the story of other clergy. Thank you. To the gods of Eberron for sending this prompt down. Thank you. Backgrounds, I can't stress this enough. Backgrounds are so wonderful to have in 5th edition. They do so much, and I really hope that all of you out there take your background as a part of your character and not just as a race class choice aspect. But here are some excellent prompts for the different backgrounds. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 different ones. Let's just randomly pick one like we did with our gift. 8. A soldier. You don't care much about church politics or intrigues. A champion of faith, you fight a battle against evil and those who would harm your flock. Divine magic is just another arrow in your quiver, and prayer is your bow. Very pragmatic. If I'm not a DM, I try to give the DM 3 open-ended plot hooks. Daly says to DMs, are you angry at your table, trying to teach it a lesson? As, yeah, if we go up to, By the way, I love this Mardi Gras set from Chessex. And that is a... oh, this is a big spin down die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it would go like 6, 7, 8, and it would rotate around. You know, some DMs consider spin downs to be like a table taboo. I mean, it's DM to DM, table to table. Even some players are like, I don't want to play with another player that uses spin downs because they think they're cheaty. A 55 millimeter D20. Yeah, a backstory can work wonders to help get things rolling. Blargle, that is absolutely correct. We draw the vast majority of our DM content in our workshops from the backgrounds of the characters that we generate beforehand. King says punch every table. What is your divine purpose? Again, let's do a sample. Let's do a mock roll. 4. To recover lost relics of your faith. This is why you were set on your path. These are excellent extra prompts for your character to consider. What sets you on this path? Because the setting of Eberron really wants you to consider who you are for the dramatic effects of this neo-noir pulp swashbuckling, high-stakes / mystery thriller that it's really trying to invoke. If you have a character that's not just a generic Western European fantasy cleric, that can, you know, not that you can't run a cleric like that in Eberron, but if you want to get involved, you want to explore the nature of faith, the nature of humanity, if you want to explore the politics of the church as a part of the mystery, more than just you know, the head priest of Paylor is actually a devil summoner. Gasp. I mean, that's a twist, but is that a little bit more obvious than the nuances of an intersect fight between, you know, various fashions of a particular religion? Also, the themes that define the acquisition of power for a cleric and warlock are similar in principle. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Warlocks can make effectively clerics. Nothing's really stopping you from having a holy roller warlock. Your faith is part of your story, not some bargain for power that might demand forfeit of your spellcasting abilities if the principles of your blind dissociation of faith are violated. If you and your DM agree, you could choose to add a little more uncertainty to your magic, furthering the idea that your powers aren't scientific or reliable, and exploring the connection to a higher power you don't fully understand. Before choosing to walk this path, bear in mind that you have to accept the good with the bad, and the possibility of disadvantage along with any benefit of advantage. This is a way to make the clerics feel different from the other classes, but isn't intended to make them better. With this notion, the DM is the absolute arbiter of any divine effect, and your faith in the DM must be similar to your faith in the connection between your character and deity. Even if chosen, this path isn't something that should create an expectation of power at given milestones, even if you believe you are being as devout as possible. In fact, the point of this idea is that divine gifts aren't reliable and that higher powers work in mysterious ways. If player and DM want to explore this idea, consider these paths. Divine visions. Mysterious magic. Doubt or heresy. You are getting so many excellent prompts. Yes, this is an Eberron supplement. These are questions, however, that should make you question the fundamental meaning of what is a cleric. In the player's handbook, here you are. This is it. You are a cleric in not 3 paragraphs, but in 3 segments. This, as an expansion to Eberron, which is an expansion to D&D, is challenging you to take the deep dive. Who are you by your faith? How does your faith manifest? So much stuff here for clerics. It is excellent. I thought all my 28mm were over the top. I was wrong. Joe says, so I need to buy my own dice. I'm borrowing a set now. Any suggestions? I also learned that I want easy to read dice. Hi, Shukan. By the way, did you get your minis in the mail? What boxes are available? Tomb of Annihilation, Dragon Heist, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and Storm King's Thunder. In fact, Trust a Flump sponsored a box earlier, and so I have to reset. There we go. Or I have to put another Mad Mage up. Yeah, Joe, Chessex makes a lot of them. I haven't heard of Norse Foundry. It could be good. Crystal Cast, C-A-S-T-E, Crystal Cast dice. If you want just big, easy to read dice, Koplow, K-O-P-L-O-W. Koplow makes some really fun, big, easy to read ones. Q Workshop. Though those are a lot more fancy, they may be a little bit more difficult because of their like kind of intricate designs. Beautiful dice. Oh, no problem. So here, I'll put them in here, Shukan. Shukan, I hope the first wave reached you in the mail in good shape. I have Tomb of Annihilation, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Dragon Heist, and Storm King's Thunder. Let's take a look now at the Sovereign Domain subclass option for clerics. Be it war, storm, death itself, faith has more than one bastion, and these individuals and these individual aspects create the maelstrom of existence. Rather than limiting devotion to a single deity, a vicar of the sovereign host embraces an entire pantheon of gods and goddesses. When blades are drawn, the sovereign cleric calls on war gods Dol Dorn and Dol Ara. When it's time for negotiation, the priest looks to Kolkoran for inspiration. While some realms overlap slightly, one who specializes in omnitheism knows the right sovereign dominion for each occasion. As a representative of many gods, a sovereign priest can draw on a wide selection of spells. However, this also means that the common people will call to the cleric with a wide variety of problems. Marauding bandits, a cursed forge, a wedding ceremony. The sovereign cleric can handle all of these. Trees, squoils, we'll bless them all. Tomb of Annihilation is 11 for a first dib pull, or 18 for all four figures in a full house. You can also get, oh yeah, precision dice, yeah. Exactly. Hey, Civil Hermit, welcome, welcome. Alright, our domain features, we get Solemn Devotion, Worldly Focus, Channel Divinity, Omnitheist, Encouraging Whispers, Divine Balance, and Sovereign Vessel, or Wessel. Let's check it out versus... I mean, there's several domains, so this is... I don't know, we might just need to read through this and see if it compares to something or another. You know, I'm not looking for direct power comparisons necessarily. I'm looking for things that might seem either too specific, too over the top, too underpowered. You know, where would this fit in a presentation?
Give me Autopia set.
Tomb of Annihilation? Will do, Shukan. TJ can recommend level up dice for that. Shukan, let me get through the cleric section here, and then I'll pull your box. Is that okay? When you choose this domain at first level, you gain proficiency in the history and religion skills if you don't already have it. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses either of those proficiencies. Also at first level, you have spent countless hours studying the portfolios of deities across your pantheons and learned to acknowledge their influence all around you in both peace and war. You gain proficiency in martial weapons and can use any weapon you are proficient with as a spellcasting focus for your cleric spells. So you're getting kind of a half warcaster feat along with martial weapons. So you don't get heavy armor, but, you know, medium armor and martial weapons and shields is still pretty good. Channel Divinity, Omnitheist. Your belief in the omnipresence of the gods allows you to call upon the goodwill of any divine presence in the pantheon. As an action, you can use your Channel Divinity to choose one spell from any domain spell list. For the next 10 minutes, you can cast this spell as if it were a domain spell for you. The spell must be from the same level of spells you would gain access to at your level. Encouraging Whispers. Starting at 6th level, while you're concentrating on a cleric spell, you add your wisdom modifier, minimum 1, to concentration checks made to maintain your spell.
Alright!
Oh, we are here. Folks are coming to receive enlightenment. Speaking of such mind-expanding questions and the pursuits of faith and information. So, Lieutenant Dan TV... welcome. Thank you very much for stopping by. pull up a chair. We're delving into some Eberron content. It's a workshop. If you have questions, you want to share stories from your own tabletop, virtual or otherwise, you are welcome to do so. Thank you very much for being here. Divine Balance, starting at 8th level, you gain the ability to infuse your attacks with divine energy. Once on each of your turns. Okay, so yeah, this is, you are more of a melee cleric. Because it's this, as you find in, well, you have, well, actually, hang on. So you have Divine Strike. Oh, the Divine Balance then, it straddles either. It is the combo of Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting. Because all of the existing domains have one or the other. You're more of a casty cleric or you're more of a hitty cleric. This is allowing you to choose either. Formerly, Danny Stew, roommate. Oh, gotcha! Well, hey, welcome, welcome. I hope that you, I hope that you were having some fun. Were you playing, were you playing with Cap? I know he was broadcasting earlier. I try and stop by and see you all when I can. I just didn't have the opportunity at the time. But I hope that you were having a lot of fun in the games that you were playing. And that really means a lot to me that, you know, through Captain Milne, that you found us and that, you know, you wanted to come over and say hi and we can, you know, interact our channels together. That's really cool. And lastly, Sovereign Vassal. At 17th level, choose 5 spells from any domain list. The 5 needn't be from the same list, 1 from each of the following levels of the table. Like your other domain spells, they are always prepared and count as cleric spells for you. Let's see. So what are some other 17th level stuff? Use your action to activate an aura of sunlight to last for a minute or until you dismiss it using another action. You emit bright light in a 60-foot radius and dim light 30 feet beyond that. Your enemies in the bright light have disadvantage on saving throws against any spells that deal fire or radiant damage. So yeah, we're getting into some of the high level stuff. This is epic level. When you would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points with a spell, you instead use the highest number possible for each die. Okay. You have a flying speed equal to your current walking speed whenever you're not underground or indoors. With that, I think, because it's not giving you extra slots, and so having more spell options isn't necessarily bad. I mean, clerics are kind of built around that. So I wouldn't say that that's overpowered necessarily. You know, this gives you a good set of fluff, of role play, you know, with the history and religion checks. You know, having access to martial weapons is, I mean, that's not bad. You know, if you're going out of simple weapons, it might take you from the D6, D8 range to the D8, D10 range. So it's not too terrible in that regard. If you're going martial weapons, you're going to be high strength anyway. But then you're having strength and wisdom kind of compete. So Divine Balance could make sense in that regard. Whereas in some of these other ones, you're definitely more of a combat cleric, or you're more of a casty cleric. The Channel Divinity Omnitheist, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it goes along with the anti-undead, or with your, you know, your turn undead. You can choose this instead. And then it just says you can choose 1 domain spell from any list. Nothing, you know, so for the next 10 minutes you can invoke this aspect. It's another spell choice. It's giving you spell choices, so it makes you a flexible spellcaster. That's the entire theme. So really, I don't see a problem with this as it's presented. It's thematic. If anything, I guess a player that doesn't have a lot, you know, you're gonna need the material in front of you. Otherwise, you could be paralyzed with indecision. How about that? So if you want to keep a game moving, you'll want to make sure that if you're going to play this character, you have the options already out in front of you so you can choose it. And that way, people at the table aren't sitting down wasting time while you're going, nah. Nah. You know what? I'm just going to cast Sacred Flame. Ah! You should have just done that. You know, so if you're going to use some of these abilities that are opening up a lot of options, make sure that as the player or as a DM presenting a character like an NPC like this, that you are aware of what's available so that you do not lag at the table. He was streaming Dark Souls from the other room, screaming at me while I streamed Hearthstone. Was he screaming advice or just taunting you? Or I hope your Hearthstone grind went well. I know that a lot of people play it because you get cards and then you dust them for enhancements and such. I don't know the intricate details, but I hope it was going well for you. You know, being able to concentrate and keep spells up, you're already getting hit and taking damage in combat anyway, or it shows that your dedication, you know, if you have a DM that is like, oh, howling winds around you and all this, you know, you're going to need to make a concentration check to keep it up. This is more of a casty cleric that has some battle elements. I don't know. I guess if they went heavy armor instead of martial, and then instead of divine balance, they just gave it potent spell casting. I don't know if that would really infringe on another domain. But again, options, right? It's talking about war, so you have melee options. I get it. You only have one turn to take an action anyway. So, I think it's very well presented, and especially on the heels of the presentation of just what is a cleric, who are you, what do you do, it makes sense. I'm happy with that. All right, before we get to Druids, we are going to pop open a box for Shukan, who wanted Tomb of Annihilation. I have this box and one other until I get a restock of boxes in. So here is my final box of Tomb of Annihilation, and you went for the full pull of the boxes. So you are going to get all 4 figures that are inside here, Shukan. He was screaming in fear from Dark Souls, and it did. I'm not very good at the game, but I got the most wins with a deck I've ever had. It sounds like you all had fun, even if he was screaming in terror. You know, sometimes we play scary or intense stuff for that thrill. I miss Cap screaming like a little girl, SDMs. By the way, for all of you who are subscribers now, we are popping a box, and so you are welcome to, you know, what's in the box? The new sort of exciting emote we have. So Flump, if you're watching, we're popping open a box right now. All right, we begin with a red cap. These are vicious little guys. In just our normal folk tales, red caps are vicious. Let alone before you give them a stat block. Your next common... Ooh, nice. Check out that orc. Big old burly boy there. Next up, you have an Aldani. And this one might be a chieftain, right? It has a trident with it. Yeah, and that's a really solid orc figure, Shukan. And lastly, speaking of... Oh my gosh, what happened to this page? Boy, something's being derpy. My God. My goodness. My good golly gracious. I hope this isn't really like pinching the stream going out to you all if this website's having trouble loading some very basic stuff. Well, all the same, what we're looking for has already loaded, and that is a stone juggernaut, Shukan. This is a solid piece of plastic here. This is very heavy. By the way, you can notice the skulls on the roller. So as it rolls across the ground, it leaves that impression. And here's a big chunky orc in size comparison to this thing. A vehicle land. Exactly, Shukan. Oh, gosh. Hey, Estwild, welcome. You survived? Man, well... We better have a talk to your with your DM then. So Shukan, thank you for sponsoring that box. I have one more Tomb of Annihilation. This is my last... I think this is my last Dragon Heist. And for Storm King's Thunder, I have these two and one other. Before I have a sealed brick over here that I can pop open for a brand new brick. And Eberron, welcome. And for Dungeon of the Mad Mage, I have these two and several others in this brick before we can crack open into a new sealed brick as well. So I still have plenty of minis here for everyone. Yeah, no, Shukan, no problem. I will wait for you to tell me when you are ready for the minis to be sent. All right, now how about Druids? Druids in Eberron. Eldeen cultures and customs. In the Five Nations, we have little experience with the champions of nature called Druids. However, recent rise, I guess that should be the recent rise. However, recent rise of the Eldeen reaches proves the power of the wild deserves the respect of nations. This class reviews the many Druidic traditions found in the deep within the hidden wilds of Western Corvair. If this is CHG, this seems like this might changing skins and whatnot. Druids draw primal magic from the world itself. The process isn't like the spells of a wizard or the tools of an artificer, nor is it a divine petition to a higher power. Well, not exactly. Legend recounts how the great progenitor dragon Eberron enveloped the jealous evil of Kyber in the living prison that would become the world. If arcane magic comes from the tears of Sybaris above, then druidic magic is the blood and breath of Eberron herself, granting power to those who seek to defend her and the natural order from the threats beyond. Most druids are swathed in tradition, usually initiated by a sect that teaches the secrets of this primal magic, while also charging the aspirant with specific duties. While some sects are loosely aligned, each one has its own ideas as to the role their kind should play in the world. The Druidic languages in Eberron. There's no universal alliance between all druids. The Wardens of the Wood and the Green Singers recognize one another as peers, but these traditions evolved alongside one another in the Eldine Reaches. The Wardens know little of the Mask Weavers of the Talenta Plains, or the primordial traditions of the Lizard Folk Shamans of Kabara. When a druid learns Druidic, the secret language of druids, it is a secret shared by all druids, regardless of sect or tradition. Scholars remain perplexed by the fact it has remained secret over the course of thousands of years. Even the most gifted linguists lament that its patterns and sounds seem discernible only to those gifted a deep-seated primal understanding. Still, it remains unlearnable and unteachable, even when deciphered by the use of diligent magics. Each attempt to decode its patterns and sounds results in fruitless energy spent withered away. In Eberron, the answer is that Druidic is an innate magical language, the meaning of which one feels primarily from within or never grasps at all. It is the language of nature itself and is integrally tied to calling on nature to facilitate casting a druid's spells. In casting Entangle, a druid requests vines to grow, while casting Cure Wounds pleads the organism's blood and bone to heal. And as all druids understand Druidic because it's the tool they all use, sages have coined this verbal component a Druidic Invocation, citing the similar praxis to bridge the gap between their conventional knowledge. In truth, one with the knowledge or ability to call on the wild would never try to name that which is rooted to the core in the world itself. While there is no universal alliance between all druids, woodland folk know that someone who speaks Druidic is a fellow initiate delving into Eberron's primal mysteries. That individual might not initially be welcomed as a friend, but will certainly be given the chance to parley before the situation escalates to violence. This consideration isn't without flaw from time to time, as the well-intentioned worshippers of a sovereign tied to nature might occasionally be mistaken for foe. Whereas in Clerics, they were compared to... the Clerics were compared to Warlocks. You know, in terms of, well, how do you get your power? Is it really the same thing? Druids and Nature Clerics. This is an Eberron-specific thing, then. Comprehend languages and tongues never cites it specifically. Yes, this is a prompt that that this supplement's giving you for Eberron itself. And of course, if you like that presentation, or it gets you thinking on, you know, a similar parallel tract, but one that's its own, you know, it's distinct. Maybe you can incorporate that in your own home game, or you can say in the way that you run Forgotten Realms, the way that you run Ravenloft, maybe that's how it works too. Traditionally, the Sovereign Host is a civilized faith with shrines in the great cities of the Five Nations, but a number of shrines to deities tied to nature can be found in the wilds. Balinor is the Sovereign of the Hunt. Arawai brings nature's bounty, and the Devourer embodies its destructive power and the hunger that reclaims its waste. In Eberron, a priest of Balinor isn't inherently required to follow one trail or the other, but the main difference between the two lay in how they command nature is granted, and the purpose for which they use it. While it's common for the two paths to recognize one another, such respect isn't always equal. From a philosophical perspective, a druid is an envoy of nature with a connection to the environment itself, not a servant of a higher power. By contrast, a cleric serves a higher power and holds dominion over the natural world. While druids shun such metal armaments, clerics usually practice combat in man-made heavy metal armors until proficient. Yet clerics lack the primal understanding required to communicate in Druidic and to assume wild shape, which is a reflection of the druid's deep connection to the natural world. So it's going through a very good way to differentiate. If you wanted to play a druid, reading this might say, you know what, maybe a nature cleric is better for what I want to do. A prompt on druids and civilization. You don't have to be the long-bearded, crazy forest guy to be a druid. Druidic beliefs. Let's say that we randomly generated a druid on the channel. Let's see what this character's belief would be. 7. Civilization is doomed, and you know that nature will rise up and wipe it all away sooner or later. That is a deeply held belief for us as a druid, similar to how clerics have their own deeply held beliefs. Oh, shoot. Has the stream died? Really? Metaphorical language style, says Estwild, where you could still comprehend the words being spoken, but you still wouldn't understand unless you knew it. It tried to die and is back now. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that, everyone. Jeez. I'm looking at my modem. My modem still has signal, so I don't know if Twitch dropped the ball or I'm not showing in my OBS. I don't have any dropped frames. I'm not uploading or downloading anything massive. Oh, gotcha. The metaphor, yeah, like Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Shaka when the walls fell. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yep. It's hiccuping a bit. Shoot. It's not with the broadcast software. It's not detecting anything. This is very aggravating. I'm sorry for that, everyone. Am I back? Here, I'll type it just to confirm. Am I back? Alright, you see me, Estwild? Probably the server you're streaming to. You can switch servers if you're streaming software. Yeah, you know, Elbrin, I need to get into OBS and make some tweaks. I was having some problems in last night's RP as well, with the Discord server, and yeah, I need to go and see if I can re-optimize my settings. And also, Trust a Flump, thank you so much for the 7 months in a row. That means a lot to me, Trust. Or Flump, or Trust a Flump. Flumpa Trust. Thank you very much. Diadems, you see chat but nothing else? Trust the Flump wiggles saucily. By the way, everyone, we are up to 993 followers on the channel. We're inching ever closer to 1,000. And I wonder if I should do something kind of fun at 1,000. Maybe do something a little bit different. What would I do? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I need 7 more people to follow, and then I'll be forced to think about it. All right, so plenty of lore, plenty of geography, of philosophy, all kinds of awesome roleplay prompts if you're going to play inside of Eberron. And if not, read this stuff anyway. This is free I mean, well, you paid for the mod or the PDF, but it's freely given inspiration for you to take, and you want to change it for your own homebrew setting? That's a time-honored tradition. Do so. All this wonderful... I mean, look. If we look at a druid, right? A druid in the player's handbook is this. Right? It's 3-4 segments of a couple paragraphs apiece. Look at how much richer this is getting. And the fact that we're going from... You know, elves dressed in green that are 600 years old and they worship trees. That's fine. You can have a druid that does that. There's nothing wrong. It's a very standard druid, good bread and butter druid. Solid concept. Do you want a druid that is like this? Or hunts down things like this? Or is this and also hunts down others like this because they're not that way as they should be? Right? Druids that look to bring civilization to heal. So we're talking about compelling druid villains. Right? And this does delve into... This is Xanathar's Lost Notes in the Circle of Seasons, or the Circle of Spores from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Can be found here. Look at all of this wonderful... exploration of what druids can be. Pages and pages. Unnatural druids. A barbarian needn't be savage, a bard needn't warble sonnets, and in the same way, it's possible to create a druid character without the bond to the natural world. As a matter of story or flavor, spells might reflect supernatural gifts as opposed to primal magic, whose effects remain unchanged but are described within your supernatural narrative. If this is a direction you and your DM agree to explore, consider exchanging the Druidic language for one that complements the narrative instead. Here's a few unnatural options. The Changeling Menagerie. Naturally, a changeling can only assume humanoid forms, but one who devotes themselves to the art of shapeshifting might transcend this limitation. A gifted changeling who masters these transformations to assume a wide array of bestial or humanoid shapes is called a menagerie. Shifters are found among the Eldeen sects and make excellent rangers and druids. Legend among the Eldeen shifters speaks of the moon, Oraloon, long ago blessing the wisest shifter warriors with the power of the natural world and the gift of shapeshifting. Right? So this is more, this is intrinsic. This is, you're a manifestation, you're a druid, but you're reskinning yourself as, my will is being made manifest in this way. My body is changed because I've been exposed to something, or I'm the product of something that's divine or supernatural otherwise. It's stabilized. All right, thank you for telling me, Elbrin. Could do a raffle, give away a random orphaned miniature to a random lucky follower. I can take that into consideration, Shukan. I don't know if I'd make it ultimately random because there are some miniatures. The orphanage, in the grand scheme of things, is where the fundraising for the channel takes place. Mostly, when you all sponsor a box, whether it's a first pull, or a first dibs, or a full pull, a lot of that just goes to buy more boxes. Any money that's raised beyond that, in order for me to invest in more lines and to get more boxes and to have an increased inventory, tends to come from the individual orphans being purchased. And so if I do give away orphans out of the orphanage, I have to be careful in how I do it, because that is the That is the direct money-making method for the channel to raise funds and investments for itself. Shukan, wish you luck. You're grinding for a 0.5% chance drop rate. What are you grinding, Shukan? A 0.1% chance to drop. Speaking of boxes, even though I decided to buy the entire box, I only really want the land vehicle. And Elsword. Well, so Shukan, that's up to you. You have a couple options here. I will be making an entry for you here. And it will list the miniatures that you have. If you're not interested in the other ones, I mean, you could always just hand them over to the orphanage. I won't say no. However, before that, you can put them up for trade, right? So Trustaflumph has a list of minis that are going to be sent out to him. However, Trustaflumph has minis that are explicitly for trade. And so people who look at that list in the orphanage can see the minis that people are holding on to and approach them for trade. You know, and if you don't want those three, I can always look at them and evaluate them, and maybe I can give you some trade credit so you can get a figure or two from the orphanage in return, one that you want. Similar to if you go to a store and you trade, you trade in some magic cards for other magic cards that you want. So let me know which option works best for you, Shukan. All right, so with this alternative take on Druids. Yeah, Trustaflumph. I even summoned you and I spammed the boxes. My crying wolf with daily beforehand has unfortunately led to a a loss of box opening watching from Trustaflumph. So we have this Circle of the Arbiter. Members of the Circle of the Arbiter understand that the material world is just one aspect of reality. These planar defenders are sworn to protect the natural world from the denizens and influence of the outer planes. The Druids of this circle are drawn from many different sects, and in this order, an Ashbound stands shoulder to shoulder with a Greensinger as the last bulwark between Eberron and the Beyond. This diversity strengthens the circle, as every tradition offers unique advantages and techniques that to counter. This diversity strengthens the circle, as every tradition offers unique advantages and techniques that to counter different threats. There's a typo in there. All right, well, that's fine. I thought I was going crazy for a second. Shukan got a Tomb of Annihilation box and popped open a red orc boy, a red orc boy, an Aldani with a trident, and a red cap, and the big piece was a stone juggernaut. When you choose this circle at 2nd level, you gain one of the following features of your choice passed down by tradition. Absolve the Unnatural. When you cast a divine spell that reduces a creature's hit point total to 0 and would kill it, you can choose to subdue the creature instead. As a DM, I allow for that. Now, rules as written, you can only subdue people with melee weapon attacks. Maybe I'm a loosey-goosey DM, but if you can explain how you subdue someone with your fireball or your crossbow, I'm fine with that. So, Absolve the Unnatural, I think, has a place for people who play rules as written, and therefore this would mechanically allow that interface. Although this is something that I personally allow anyway, so, Yeah, shoot him in the heel. You know, it's a blunt arrow. I don't know. Maybe you like quickly like snap the tip off, and it's just like it knocks the wind out of them, and they fall unconscious. I am open to stuff like that for using attacks. Like you wanna subdue someone with a fireball. It's the concussive force of this expansion. Or if you're fighting in a dungeon, a fireball sucks up the oxygen, and so the person kind of gasps and loses their breath and faints. Now, you still have to deal with stuff like, you know, are they set on fire in that instance? But if you can come up with a way that you've done it, I'm fine with it. Scent of Decay. You know the detect poison and disease and protection against poison spells. You always have them prepared, and they don't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. You can cast each once without expending a spell slot. Once you do, you must complete a short or long rest before you can cast these spells again this way. Dark Vision. You gain Dark Vision out to a range of 60 feet. If you already have Dark Vision, its range increases by 30 feet. They do have grenades like that just suck all the oxygen out of the room. Wouldn't that just be an incendiary device? I mean, back in the Iraqi war, you know, when the fleeing forces were lighting Kuwaiti oil wells on fire, you know, the army would bring in a demolition team of. They'd put like a bunch of dynamite in a crate or in like a barrel, and they'd wheel up a crane and they'd hold it in the flame spout of the oil rig that was on fire, and they detonate the TNT because that the detonation sucks all the oxygen out of the flame of the flaming oil rig, and then they would cap off the oil again. So Scented Decay makes sense. Dark Vision, I can see a problem here, in so much that with 5th edition they tried to make Dark Vision easier to handle, because you don't have normal vision, low light vision, and dark vision. It's normal vision or dark vision out to 60 feet, unless in rare circumstances it's 120 feet. And the reason why that can be a problem is a DM has to describe a room in each of these different ways to the party members. Or if not, the person with the farthest dark vision is the winner and gets all of the descriptions. And so now if we introduce 60 feet, 90 feet, 120 feet, it can... Shades of Grey, haha, all the jokes. I don't think that it would break anything if this was just adding 60 feet, another 60 feet to go up to 120. It's consistent with the stuff that exists elsewhere, and it's not creating this awkward middle vision tier. All the puns, Shukan, as much as I can. Woodsong, you gain proficiency in the Charisma performance skill, and whenever you make a Charisma check when interacting with Fey creatures, your proficiency bonus is doubled if it applies to the check. There was a version of Darkling given by Tieflings that makes you see it in only shades of red. You mean like Dark Vision? Well, that used to be the old Infravision, and that could be something, again, you talk to with your DM. I'm fine with, if people say that they want to, if it's monochromatic, because that's really what the rules are implying. If it's shades of gray, fine. You want it to be monochromatic red because it's infravision, that's fine. You want to have, I don't know, your eyes are blue, but you have dark vision, and so everything shows up as blue and black monochromatic vision. Sure. If that's how your eyes work, I think that's thematic and fine. Come on. Yeah, no, it just... Drop frames detected 11%. That was 13 minutes ago, though. Warden View. You gain proficiency in the nature and perception skills if you don't already have it. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that uses either of those proficiencies. Not too bad. Getting extra skills is always fun. I guess... I mean, really, this is thematic to the story, and that's fine. Because these are supposed to emulate the 3rd edition Prestige classes as archetypes in 5th Ed here. I think it works. More people are probably just going to go with Warden View, generally. Dark Vision is probably going to be popular, but again, you're getting that weird 90 feet. Woodsong, you gain proficiency in the Charisma performance skill, and whenever you make a Charisma check when interacting with fey creatures. Scent of Decay for free spellcasting, that's probably going to be a popular one. And Absolve the Unnatural. I guess if your character has a moral compulsion to not kill, but then again, hippie DMs, like dirty hippie DMs like me, if you can describe how you knock someone out with an arrow or a fireball, I'm fine with it. Shape of the Arbiter. Also at 2nd level, you can use your action and expend 2 uses of Wild Shape at the same time to magically assume the shape of a planar being of energy whose origin and composition are as pure as the multiverse itself, called an Arbiter. The rules of Wild Shape apply with the following changes. Your statistics don't change, but you gain temporary hit points equal to your hit point maximum. While these temporary hit points remain, you are always considered to be under the effects of the Levitate spell, and you have resistance against all damage except Force and Psychic. You gain a special melee and ranged spell attack option that you can use with the attack action. This special attack has a range of 30 feet and can hit ethereal creatures. You are proficient with it, and you add your wisdom modifier to its attack and damage rolls. Its damage type is Force, and its damage die is a D8. You can stay in this shape for a number of minutes equal to half your druid level rounded down. You then revert to your normal form. You can revert to your normal form earlier by using a bonus action on your turn. You automatically revert if you fall unconscious, you have no more temporary hit points, or you die. Additionally, while you're transformed by Shape of the Arbiter, you can use a bonus action to expend any number of hit dice up to your Wisdom modifier to regain 1d8 of these temporary hit points per hit die expended. So you get temps equal to your max HP, and if your temps pop, so does your shape shift form. It's different. I'm not seeing anything that's inherently wrong with it. You're certainly specialized for extraplanar creatures. I have no problem with it being a force damage effect. It does use up both of your slots. So you're powerful up front, but you'd have to recover later, as opposed to just turning into like a big hit point dump like a bear or something. One of the alternatives, says Elbren, I'll have to check on it, but it's from a source book with 4 different alternative tieflings. I think that isn't that the Asmodeus ones that are in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide. It could be in another one, Elbren. Starting at 6th level, your sect is charged with maintaining the balance between some of nature's deadliest enemies. You choose one sect listed in the Hated Foes table. When you hit a creature type associated with that sect, you gain a bonus to the damage you deal with your melee and ranged spell attacks against that creature equal to half your druid level, and its damage type is the same as the attack. Celestial and Elemental, Plants and Undead, Aberrations and Fiends, Beasts and Fae, Constructs, and Monstrosities. It's a good quasi-ranger ability. Oh, sorry. Pardon me. Elder Gifts. At 10th level, you gain one of the following magical abilities gifted by your an elder of your sect. Ashes to Arbiter. You can expend one use of your wild shape feature to cast the counter spell without expending a spell slot. As part of the same reaction, you can expend an additional use of your wild shape to immediately refocus the energy you diffuse to assume the shape of the Arbiter. You can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. Alright, wait, so you can expend one use of your wild shape feature to cast the counter spell without using a spell slot. As part of the same reaction, you can expend an additional use of your wild shape to immediately refocus the energy you diffuse to assume the shape of the Arbiter. Okay, so that's allowing you get the functionality, but because Arbiter normally needs both of your wild shapes, this would allow... That's a pretty good wombo combo. Yeah, counter spell and then... Chillbane, you are immune to poison and disease and have resistance to cold damage and effects of cold weather. Pretty decent. Gates of Mind, you gain immunity to psychic damage and resistance to force damage. That could be a big one. Gates of Mind. Immunity to psychic damage and resistance to force. Whew, doggies. That is the heckin' chonker of damage resistance in 5th Ed, in my opinion. Man, especially if you splash in some Barbarian. Yeah, Shukan. Immunity to psychic damage and resistance to force damage. That is a pretty good gift. Especially if you have other forms of mitigation through your race or your class. Or a multi-class. Multi-class Barbarian Rage resist everything, pretty much. If you go Totem Warrior Bear, then yes. You are resisting everything. And you take... Now we're playing Pokemon, right? You know, Dark is... Dark takes no damage from Psychic. And it's the other way around, too. Like, Dark is super effective. Or wait, is? Yeah, Psychic I don't think normally has an effect on Dark. Shame on me for not knowing. Singer's Haunt. You gain proficiency in charisma saving throws, and you can't be charmed, frightened, or put to sleep against your will. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. Gates of the Mind is still the big one to me. When you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can drop to 1 hit point instead. You can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. Alright, so these are like quasi-feats or racial traits. Interesting. It certainly lets you customize your druid for the adventure you're going on, and I like that because normally it's your spell list that I say, that's the diary of where you've been and the things that you're doing, and what are your thoughts. I should be able to look at your spell sheet and put together some clues about where you've been and what you've done and who you are. Dark Bug and Ghost. I never looked at it like phobias. I just looked at it as something like, bug types. Bugs' minds are too simple. Like in D&D terms, there's some spells you can't use on animals, or I guess even some people, like a little baby, because their intelligence is too low to comprehend what you're trying to do. All paths. At 14th level, you know the planar shift spell. You always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. You can cast it once without expending a spell slot. Once you cast the spell this way, you can't cast it again using this feature until you finish a long rest. Additionally, while in wild shape, you can see into the ethereal plane out to a range of 30 feet. It might want to... It might want to reference you to the etherealness spell. Because looking into the ethereal plane can be different. Or it just says, you know, you can see perfectly into the ethereal plane or something. But it might want a reference to the etherealness spell. Planar Shift at 14 as a freebie. Not bad. Not all games have multiple planes. Bing, bing, bing. At least in my own homebrew campaign. In that case, I don't know, maybe it could just be replaced with teleport. You know, if you're these, like, special, like, men in black druids that have to, like, zip around, like, fighting back incursions from the other planes, then, you know, Planar Shift makes sense. Maybe have a backup if Planar Shift is not an option in the campaign. And at 14th level, you gain one of the following features of your choice, an omen as to the trials that lay before your kind. Bound to unravel once on each of your... Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that clarification, Trestaflump. You can tell that I don't play with Planar Shift all that often. Because of that, right? I was looking at it more as like a teleport effect. Albeit it's one that doesn't have, if I recall correctly, it doesn't have a chance to miss. So it's a little bit more exclusive in that regard. Because you can use it to just reposition yourself on your own plane also. But yeah, I thank you for the utility in that, for Planar Shift acting as a banishment. That being said, if you don't play with extra planar creatures, have a backup. Also at 14th level, you gain one of the following features of your choice, an omen as to the trials that lay before your kind. Once on each of your turns, when you make a melee attack against a creature that is concentrating on a spell, you can deal additional damage to that creature. The additional damage type is force and is equal to your proficiency bonus. You know the contagion spell. You always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. When you cast it, you can expend a number of hit dice equal to your Constitution modifier to increase the spell save DC by 1 for each hit die you spend. Once you use this feature, you can't cast it again in this way until you finish a long or a short or long rest. Gates of Wrath. Whenever you reduce one of your hated foes to 50 hit points or fewer, you can expend one of your wild shapes to banish it. If the target is native to a different plane of existence than the one you're on, the target disappears, returning to its home plane. If the target is native to the plane you're on, the creature vanishes into a harmless demi-plane. While there, the target is incapacitated. It remains there for 1 minute until you are incapacitated or you use this feature again, at which point the target reappears in the space it left or the nearest unoccupied space if that space is occupied. Interesting. And so a question that would come up here, because this says whenever you reduce one of your hated foes, and I guess that should be plural instead of singular, foe to foes, to 50 hit points or fewer. What if at max hit points they have 50 or 40 hit points? What if an ally reduces the hit points to 39? Does this have to be on your hit? And your hit then signifies like the bloody condition. We were talking about 4th edition earlier. Does that hit then give you this signal that you can expend your shift to banish? Also, I guess banish does not... Banishment. So Banishment the spell requires a Charisma saving throw. This just requires low hit points, and then you throw a Pokeball at it, and it gets captured in the Pokeball. Apparently looking like this. I'm just making that part up, but... so there's not even a save. This is a guaranteed banishment. But the condition seems a little murky to me. Hey, Mr. Wolfie, welcome. Hey, we raided, we came along and we met Mr. Wolfie in a prior workshop that he was conducting. Welcome to our workshop, and hey, take a seat. You're at a store in a game shop, or you're in a chair in a game store, and we're going over the new Eberron content. You're welcome to throw out your opinion, to ask questions, or tell tales of your own tabletop adventures. Shukan says, yeah, Plains, my current campaign is about to fight some CR8 demon who just got summoned by cultists below a library. Fiend is a catch-all term for demons and devils, and Yugoloths, I believe, also. It's kind of like it's like a middle ground, sort of. Not demon, not devil, but it's still a fiend. Yeah, Bloody was a 4th ed mechanic, but I like it. I would imagine that feature works comparably to the Paladin's Banishing Smite, but it's just a bit weird since it's an always-on thing. Yeah, so it's sort of like your DM would have to like proc you, like it's an ability in an MMO. I guess speaking of 4th edition, though I love it. That could also. Is that undo battlefield awareness by revealing the hit point total, if only like somewhat vaguely, of a monster? Also, by 14th level, is 50 hit points still a continuing threat? 50 or fewer. I mean, you could knock it down from 60 to 30, and the next person who hits it is going to deal 30 damage and kill it. Questions. By the way, I'm sorry, King said a couple things up above. At least make your high dimensions interesting. I don't know who at D&D thought it was a good idea to just be like, lol, yeah, there's an elemental plane of everything, incredibly specific thing. Because it allows, I guess, a singular focus. Although, King, that's partly why I do not use planes in my personal game. I don't like that concept for my personal storytelling. I'm not saying that's bad, that other people can't run with the Abyss and Elysium and Valhalla and all these other places. I don't begrudge anyone for that. Just for my own personal tastes, I don't include extra planes. And that also means extra dimensional spaces. No Heward's Handy Haversacks, no bags of holding, things like that. Yeah, so this is... we had the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron, and now we have the Morgrave Miscellany, which is expanding on a lot of the classes and races. But it's also giving a ton of excellent Eberron lore, and if not the Eberron lore, just questions to prompt you to think more deeply about the characters you're running, Wolfie. It's really solid. I like it. Elemental Plane of Tarrasques. Yeah, and so I guess one got one's kind of spilled out there. Best plane. I use planes as parallel dimensions that exaggerate aspects of stuff. That could be a way of looking at it. A friend of mine has the Plane of Broken Things. And so I guess it'd be kind of like the equivalent in D&D Time Trust a Flump to the Trash Kingdom. If something's broken and forgotten, it's sort of like... It's kind of like that Great Garbage Patch of the Pacific Ocean, except it's in the Astral Sea. And so you have this plane that's just filled with all the weird junk and things and people and whatever that just kind of get discarded. And it ends up in this plane of broken things. My current home game gets around the whole planar issue by having the plane smashed into the prime material during a god war in which all the gods all died. that seems to take care of it then, Elbrin. A big old Ragnarok. Song of Madness. You know the Crown of Madness spell. You always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. Also, when you cast it using this feature, it affects all humanoids within 30 feet of you that can hear or see you. Ooh. Once you cast the spell this way, you can't cast it again using this feature. All humanoids within 30 feet of you. I'm gonna have to make this much smaller. My goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Apparently there's, big people, tall people, whatever. So we have 6 times 7 times 2. So that's 42. That's 84. 90. You have the possibility of casting Crown of Madness on 96 people. Is that too powerful? Wolfie says, God, I love gods. Though because they all died and how things happened, it is now possible for mortals to become essentially gods if they find the shards of the dead gods. Well, and keep in mind that Crown of Madness... all the conjurations. Crown of Madness. One humanoid of your choice that you can see within range. So that's a see within range. This other one is within 30 feet that can see or hear you. Wisdom saving throw. Or become charmed by you for the duration. While the target is charmed in this way, a twisted crown of jagged iron appears in its head and a madness glows in its eyes. The charmed target must use its action before moving on each of its turns to make a melee attack against a creature other than itself you mentally choose. The target can act normally on its turn if you choose no creature or if none are within its reach. On your subsequent turns, you must use your action to maintain control of the target, or the spell ends. Also, the target may make a wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns. On a success, the spell ends. All right. If you are in a mass combat, I know that this is kind of a ridiculous, this can seem kind of ridiculous, but here, so we have, whoops. If you're doing a mass combat, and let's say you're getting swarmed by goblins or villagers because they want to drive you out, that is going to slow the game down tremendously. I mean, if we want to go maximum, that's 96 rolls for the initial, and then you have to command them all. And then at the end of their turns, they each get to save. That could be daunting for 12. For 6 even. let alone if you were completely surrounded. I totally understand the thematics. I don't think that this is very practical in many games. Yeah, Wolfie, yeah, this is like the world's biggest bar fight, and you're the one who controls the puppets. And so in this case, I mean, so here, if we have to do this, we're going to generate 96. In fact, no, let's just even generate 20. We're going to generate with a bot 20 d20 rolls. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the modifier. 20 d20 rolls. Ta-da! Now, I have to go through and each one in every order, because they're moving, they're swinging. I need to apply. And what if not all of them are commoners? What if some of them are like soldiers and town guards and nobles and oh my goodness. So Shukan, depending on how you play, a 30-foot radius could look like that. However, if you're just playing with the square method to make things easier, it's a lot more comprehensive because it's the full cube. And instead of just being centered on a intersection, like in the image that you posted, you occupy a square, which is adding that many more combatants to the chart here. So this is oof. And by the way, everyone, this isn't counting if we're using something like levitate to be above a battlefield, or if there's flying enemies. This is only two-dimensional, right? So here's our 2D math. Don't forget then that we have an entire 30 feet above and an entire 30 feet below possible as well. Yeah, maybe a cap on the number, so it's everyone in 30 feet up to a certain, like a charisma, or I guess it'd be wisdom because it's a druid power. Or there are more than one enemy per square because they're small creatures. There you go, Trust a Flump. Yeah. So yeah, tiny, small. Yeah, I guess diminutive is like the super smallest. Yeah, Mr. Wolfie, let's go over to it. You know the Crown of Madness spell, and that is on page 229 of the Player's Handbook. You always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. Also, when you cast it using this feature, it affects all humanoids. I mean, you can say, well, so humanoids, but come on. All humanoids within 30 feet of you that can hear or see you. And by the way, that's if anyone is invisible or something, or like hidden through illusion. Because all they have to do is be able to hear you. If you think someone is around and AoEs go around corners, Crown of Madness, and just demand that they come out. But of course, then everyone in the bar you're lurking around behind is going to do the same. So when you cast it using this feature, it affects all humanoids within 30 feet of you that can see or hear you. Once you cast the spell this way, you can't cast it again using this feature until you finish a long rest. Now, this is 14th level. So we should note, I mean, if we look over here for Druids, you know, by 14th level, you are getting a 7th level spell. And let's take a quick look at for power scaling. What is a 7th level spell? Firestorm, Mirage Arcane, Plane Shift, Regenerate, and Reverse Gravity. So I guess Firestorm would be an equivalent that we can look at. So let me make sure I'm not levitating up on a soapbox about something here. Firestorm. A storm made up of sheets of roaring flame appears in a location you choose within range. The area of the storm consists of up to 10-foot cubes. The area of the storm consists of up to 10-foot cubes, which you can arrange as you wish. Each cube must have at least one face adjacent to the face of another cube. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. It takes 7d10 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. The fire damages objects in the area and ignites flammable objects that aren't being worn or carried. If you choose, plant life in the area is unaffected by the spell. But there's no subsequent saves after it. This is a save or, a one-time deal. As you designate, as you paint the target for a carpet bomb of fire, which, interestingly enough, you can't exclude vegetation from. The slow spell handles this well, up to 4 creatures. All right, there we go, Trustaflump. You stand in the middle of a level of tower and cast this. Bam, you just hit everything 2 levels up and down from you, basically, says Elbrun. Is Tsunami? Is that in the player's handbook? Yep, Tsunami. That's an 8th level conjuration. A wall of water springs into existence on a point you choose within range. You can make the wall up to 300 feet long, 300 feet high, and 50 feet thick. The wall lasts for the duration. When the wall appears, each creature within its area must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 60-10 bludgeoning damage. Start of each of its turns, the wall appears. The wall, along with any creatures, moves 50 feet away from you. Any huge or smaller creature inside the wall or whose space must make a strength saving throw or take more bludgeoning. Tsunami. Tsunami's an 8th level spell, so for sure, you're casting one of these. Song of Madness is until a long rest. Still, this is going to kill people outright, or it's going to wipe them off the map, and the combat's going to be over. I guess in many cases. Song of Madness, though, is that initial and then ongoing ones after you're affecting this entire range. And then, of course, the Tsunami is just one direction that everything is swept to, and the decision is already made for what occurs. For the Song of Madness, the player would get to micromanage every single character. Now, it could be 2. It could only be 2. I don't want to seem, unfair. Or if we go 4, like with the slow spell, that could be fine. Managing 4 characters, not as bad. But who doggies if you don't go to a halfling jamboree and just drop this on, you drop the mental base on the halflings, and you control this army of them for at least a little while. Or Fell Sacrifice as the other Absorpcent Omen. When you hit a creature with a melee attack while in wild shape, you can expend one of your hit die to sacrifice some of your life force to deal damage to your druid level. To deal damage equal to your druid level. Why are you flashing? Stop flashing. Your druid level to your target. In addition to the attack's normal damage, each time you do, roll the hit die and subtract the number from your hit point total. When you hit a creature with a melee attack while in wild shape. which I presume could also be... Yeah, because your Arbiter is a wild shape. Okay. You can spend one of your hit die, which is a d8, to sacrifice some of your life force to deal damage equal to your druid level to your target, in addition to the attack's normal damage. Each time you do, roll the hit die and subtract the number from your hit point total. Two things are coming up to mind for this. One, it should probably say that this damage cannot be mitigated. Or that this damage can't come out of temporary hit points. Am I being too stingy? I don't know. Am I in kind of a weird defensive mode right now? Am I being nitpicky? I think that if this is hit point damage from hit dice, it should come from your hit point total. And it can't be mitigated, and temps can't be touched by it. And I say that because Arbiter depends on temp hit points. If you're a bear, I mean, you get normal hit points, but you just can't, the writer is you can't mitigate it. But I don't see why someone wouldn't just take Fell Sacrifice, transform into a bear, and I guess dump extra damage every swing. Why not? Because you're using the bear's hit points and not your own. Maybe that's the point, that you're diminishing the length of your wild shape and doing more damage up front. I guess my only contest is most combats take 3 or 4 rounds. And so, you know, you're making a sacrifice of a kind, but it's not really a sacrifice because the combat's going to be over before it's really relevant, I suppose. I don't know. Does that seem kind of weird or unbalanced? Maybe it's balanced. Should I be considering the meta of the general meta of D&D, where most fights only take 3 or 4 rounds, and rarely ever go to 10, even in a boss battle? That's like the big bad boss of the entire campaign might take a minute or two of combat time, right? You know, 10, 12, 14 rounds. Wolfie, you don't see too much of a problem for 14th level. Seems that it's designed to burn the bonus hit points for many wild shapes. Combat is supposed to be 3 or 4 rounds. It's not supposed to be. It doesn't have to be 3 or 4. Many combats are over in just several rounds. You need to think of multiple fights in a row. It's a possibility. And every fight is going to last a couple rounds, but if they can maintain their wild shape for hours equal to their druid level, multiple combats out of the same pool, especially because you can heal yourself in your combat shape, or be healed at least. If not heal yourself, you can be healed in your bear shape, or whatever you are, giant octopus, a dire squirrel. You burn through your hit die, but I mean, they're D8s. By this level, at 14th level, is an extra D8 going to be a deal breaker? I don't know. Oh, yes, Shukan, the Aguarel. Yeah, I don't know if Psyart is on, but yeah, saying that is reminds me of the Aguarel concept. Well, Druid, I like that they're acting as this extra planar gatekeeper, so that they're not just, you know, the friend of the tree, or I'm the desert druid and I do desert stuff. This is, I'm here to protect, I'm the men in black. We're here to protect our home plane, and this is how we're going to go about it. I love, look at all this juicy lore. Look at all of these other concepts that challenge your perception of Druid. I do have some... I guess I have some reservations, though, about things being too weak or too strong. About dark vision, making this awkward 90 feet vision instead of the kind of the cleaner 60, 120. Or absolve the unnatural, which, again, I'm a hippie druid. I'm a hippie druid. Is there any other kind? Just kidding. I'm a hippie DM, and again, I allow knockouts for... You have a sling and a stone. There you go. You knock the person out with the blow. I offer that as, do you want to kill or do you want to go for a knockout blow? And if so, describe it, how you're going to do it. Whether it's a sword, a club. Blackjacks don't exist, or saps don't exist in 5th edition. Not, like, mechanically anyway. You want to do it with a magic missile? That's fine. You just sort of magic missile across the chin, and it spins them out. So stuff like this is like, Stuff like this could create more complications. This is solid. Wood Song is, it's specialized, but it could be really cool. You get, whenever you make a charisma check when interacting with fey creatures, that could be really neat. And Warden View is solid. You gain proficiency in nature and perception skills. And your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that uses either of those proficiencies. Although, that seems kind of weird. Any ability check... Oh, that uses either. Yeah, either of the proficiencies referring to nature perception is either. Either, or. Got it. Hey, Crossive, welcome! Without limits in place, druids with wild shape can conceivably get hundreds of bonus HP between long rests. Yes, Elbrun. That's why they're kind of limited to their Pokedex. They can only turn into the things that they're carrying around in their little nature journal. So you as the DM have the power to control. If you have a player that's playing a druid and is from a North European forested area, fantasy setting, and they want to turn into a T-Rex, you can tell them no. You tell me when you've studied a T-Rex and we'll talk, but just because a T-Rex exists in the monster manual doesn't mean you can automatically turn into it. You have to actually scan it into your druid dex. Oh, did it freeze? Yeah, well. It's about 3:30 anyway, everyone. Crossive, I know you just got here, but I think I think with the time and the fact that the stream has been kind of buggy. Oh, fit into, not fight. Okay. Maybe we can find someone to raid and go give them some cheer. We can give them some energy, and just have and we'll spread the love here. When we come back tomorrow for Thursday, I reckon we are going to pick up with Fighter, and Fighters have 2. Let me find it here. We have a legacy weapon or a bone knight. I'm sorry, legacy weapon is a concept. It's a bone knight or a vigilante. And so we're going to start here with different ways to look at fighters, to conceptualize them, and to go from there. Let's go raid. And by the way, thank you everyone for your time tonight. For those of you who sponsored minis, thank you so much. I appreciate that show of support. Did you make a trade? Okay. Okay, yeah, so if you're sending messages like that, Shukan, I don't immediately see it while I'm broadcasting. So it's something that I have to take care of when I'm not, because I as much as I can, I make eye contact with you through the camera. And I'm I try and be aware directly of you who's watching the broadcast, as well as speaking to the microphone and making sure I'm referencing. So for messages on Discord, I mean, I'll get them, they're held, but I didn't see it immediately, Shukan. Oh, snap. The Game Master's rating with 9. Welcome, everyone. All the raids. Welcome, welcome, with all of the Game Masterlings that were holding on. Raid, 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 yo. Welcome, everyone. The Game Master, it's going very well. We have gotten through the new Eberron supplement up to the Druid. And the Druid, you know, everything so far is like, a little nitpick here and there. The Druid, I think, had more things that were making me go, I don't know about that. For purposes of power or just practicality, I guess. Thematically, everything is so far solid. I mean, it not only just for the setting, but it has you look into the nature of a class. What is a barbarian? You know, does your primal awareness have to be because you were born in the forest and, you know, you grew up with wolves or whatever? No, it doesn't. It could just be you're a nervous person who's always looking around. So this supplement, I love, challenges us to ask questions about the nature of the classes and introduces extensions then of those questions through the subclasses. The subclasses are thematic, as even this supplement says. It's trying to invoke the prestige classes of 3rd edition. And the Druid one, though, is giving me some... It's not a heckin' concern, but I definitely think we've had more conversation about the Druid circle that's presented here, which is kind of a multiplanar... You're like a Men in Black. Instead of defending the forest or the seas, you're defending your planet or your plane from other planes' incursions. And that's Circle of the Arbiter. Oh, Sheeps! Hi there! It's great to see you, I guess, on my turf then, Oh Sheeps. Welcome, welcome. The cleric domain seemed really good to me, and it challenges your concept of faith. You know, what does it mean? Why do you get the gifts that you do? All these extra little charts when you're doing character creation, I love it. I'm a fan of this, especially because on the workshops we hold, if we're not reviewing content, we're making it, where we'll make random characters. From prompts, and then we'll breathe life into them. They'll come alive before us. They have full personalities. Decision making is easier. We can imagine where they're going to go. They have histories that have brought them to the present and will then allow us to look into the future of what an adventure will bring them. So things like this transcendental moment. If you want to play a cleric, what happened that made you realize you have this power or you can channel it? You roll a d6. We rolled a 1. A spontaneous act of healing saved a dying friend. So it could have been spare the dying or cure wounds. This is a part of your background, and you realize, you know, as you're holding your friend, you know, he or she's taking the last breaths of air, you know, and you know it. Oh, we should have listened to our parents. We should have tried to parkour in Sharn. If you're familiar, that's a city with a lot of towers. A lot of parkour opportunities and a lot of opportunities to fall and climb and do all the things that kids do. You know, and so if we're just having spontaneous storytelling, 2 kids are there, their parents kept telling them, don't climb the towers, don't do it. And your friend's like, I bet I can make the leap. And you're like, nuh-uh, yeah, I've done it before. Yeah, oh yeah, well, go ahead and prove it. Uh-oh. If that gauntlet has been laid out between kids, then what are you going to do? You know, so the friend tries to jump, almost gets it. There's a random gust of wind. He would have made it otherwise. He would have proven you wrong. But yet, where did that gust of wind come from? Was that humbling? Is that going to lead into your belief in the divine? But the gust of wind goes, and he's blown. And fortunately, he falls to like just the next balcony down, but he hits his head, you know, trail of blood down the exterior, and you're like, I gotta go. Boom. Adrenaline rush. I shouldn't do this. Jump. And you jump and you tumble. Maybe you get hurt yourself. But your friend is dying. You're excited. Like, no, come on, hang in there. Oh, gods, we should have listened to our parents. And, you know, you're there. Please, no, keep breathing. You know, someone go get a leaf. If you get the reference, then good on you. Someone get a leaf. You're like putting it on the head to try and stop the bleeding. And through this moment of realization, right? I should have done the right thing. I should have listened. I should have been a good boy. I could have been a contender. A burst of light, and suddenly your friend may not be, you know, conscious, but is stabilized. The wound has closed. Maybe even in a certain pattern. And that's when you realize, you know, in this desperate moment, that's your signal, that's your calling. Have any of you done such a thing if you have rolled a cleric before? Or as a DM, have you looked into how a player becomes the cleric they are in your game? Here, we just had a complete impromptu storytelling session by rolling a d6 to get us into the mood, to tell the story about what happened, you know, before we were even a level 1 cleric. Heck, this might have even led to our background as an acolyte. If you have a background, congratulations, you're not a 1 hit point commoner. At least you have some skill proficiencies. You know, maybe some equipment. And then you finally get to earn your level 1 in a class. But what happened to put you there? Do you remember that friend? Did that friend go back and try it again and then died for the effort? And it hurts your heart. He should have listened. He should have taken the gift he was given, and yet the fool had to prove himself one more time. And look what happened. Oh, by the way, yeah. So we were calculating that the druid can cast Crown of Madness once a day to everyone in a 30-foot radius around him or her that can see or hear the character. If this character is being mobbed, that is 42, 42, and 12. So a potential of 96 humanoids have to roll saves against Crown of Madness, have to be controlled by the druid, and then make saves after that before they then go about their business. And then at the next turn, the actions and the saves. The actions and the saves. And so something like, and then this is just in a 2D burst, right? Going out this way. This is 30 feet all around. What if you're flying or you're levitating above a battlefield? Now, this is dependent if you're playing with cubes, like, so your fireballs are fire cubes. But, you know, games might do that. A lot of them do. I love that in 4th edition. I love this. I love playing by squares without counting 5-10, 5-10, and all that. It made things just so much easier. It was still believable. It wasn't a huge suspension of disbelief. Blood Angel Cosplay. Cool name. And if you do, in fact, do cosplay, I'd love to see that sort of stuff. Thank you very much for the follow. And so, hey, all these people, you know, came by in a raid. I hope you enjoyed that impromptu storytelling session. You know, we do that time and again. And for people who sponsor boxes of minis, there's 4 minis in a box. Easy stuff to make a cool, compelling story right on the fly on the stream. So yeah, just things to think about, because I'm in nitpicky mode because, you know, I love the setting and I love exploring this, and it's because this is an act of that love for role-playing and storytelling that I want to take a critical eye to make this be a solid examination of this initial offering in this Eberron, I was about to say Ravnica, in this Eberron expansion. And also, I am 6 followers away from 1,000 followers on the channel. My goodness, everyone, thank you so much. A level 7 drow female wizard. So what is your specialty? What's your school specialty? Elbrin, you're a streamer worth hitting that follow button for. Oh, thank you. Just remember, Elbrin, unfollowing me and refollowing me doesn't increase my... Necromancy, okay. So necromancy is the once more with feeling. Well, I hope that you're really enjoying it, Blood Angel cosplay, or however you want, Blood Angel, or however you want me to refer to you. You know, if it's compelling, if it's making you happy, you feel, inspired, you feel energized by this, then you're doing what you got to do. Angel? I'll try and remember the 635, but if it's easier for me to just refer to you as Angel, maybe we can meet halfway. Necromancers, those people that were told by their mom to make new friends and took it a bit more literally than others. Heck, this druid is... this is like... it's not necromancy, but it's certainly a conscious limbo where their minds are dominated by this Crown of Madness effect. That's more of a druid in maybe the Fey realm. Yeah, so the druid subclass presented here is more of a guardian of the world, like the Men in Black. They're supposed to prevent incursion. They're supposed to prevent incursion of extraplanar beings into Eberron, or if you want to translate this to your own homebrew world, or if you run Forgotten Realms, then you can lay it in there too. Man, maybe something's derping on my end. I've been having a couple glitches throughout the night. I'm trying to refresh a tab here, and it's like, oh, this site can't be reached. Oh, wow, that's I have internet. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, so there it goes. They do, because it makes you feel kind of, it makes you feel helpless. Like, here I am, I'm trying to, I'm trying to get something done here. I'm trying to broadcast and, I want to develop this rapport with you all, right? We're running a workshop, ideas are flowing, and then, I'm helpless. Oh, no. All right, well, anyway, everyone, hopefully whatever, bottleneck I've worked through is over. I do want to wrap things up since we're now almost to 4 a.m. So I appreciate all of you who came with the raid. We are going to begin the exploration again with the fighter subclass, or subclasses, there's two. 11 p.m. Thursday Eastern time. And we go from 11 p.m. till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., depending on the evening. Sometimes we'll play Jackbox games together afterwards, to keep our imaginations going, roleplay prompts, creativity, all of that. And so, I appreciate your all's time and meeting. Oh, and you stream on here too? Well, Blood Angel, you know, if any of you join our Discord, you're welcome to do so. We keep it safe for work, nothing worse than PG-13. And I do have an entire area for people in the community who do art, who broadcast, who, you know, who are looking to be mentors or to find mentoring for a problem that they might have. You know, role play, drawing, writing, that kind of a thing. It's an excellent resource if I can toot my own horn. Any of you are welcome to join in there, and you can promote yourself as well. Thank you, Diadems. So we're gonna go and say hi to someone who normally paints D&D miniatures. In fact, that's how we found him first, and when we gave him his first raid. Awesome guy. He does some really cool painting. Is very chill. Is playing a game called Outward, and his name is very fascinating itself. It is Zesty Utters. So let's go say hi to Zesty. Give him some energy. You know, some role play energy, some creative energy. You know, if you have questions about miniatures and painting, maybe he can answer them for you. And let's go and say hi, everyone. Thank you again so much, and hopefully I'll see you here sometime tomorrow evening. Peace to you.